If you've ever rented a VPS and then opened the terminal, you probably had the same reaction that most beginners do. What am I supposed to do now? You've got a server, you've got an IP address, but actually deploying an app, that's where things get messy. You're dealing with Docker commands, reverse proxies, SSL certificates, environment variables, JIT deployments, and before long, you're copying commands from random blog posts, hoping nothing breaks. That's exactly why tools like Coolify, EasyPanel, and Dokploy have exploded in popularity recently. They all promise the same thing. Take a raw VPS and turn it into something that feels more like Heroku or Vercel, where deploying apps is simple and visual. But here's the problem. These three tools look similar on the surface, but they're actually very different in how they work, how easy they are to use, and who they're best for. So in this video, we're breaking down what each of these platforms actually does, how easy they are to set up, the key differences between them, and which one beginners should actually choose. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which control panel makes the most sense for your VPS. Let's start with the big picture. What do these tools actually do? When you rent a VPS from providers like DigitalOcean, Hestner, or Vultr, what you get is basically a blank Linux server. That's it. There's no dashboard to deploy apps, no interface to connect your GitHub repo, no automatic SSL certificates. Everything is done through the terminal. For experienced developers, that's normal, but for beginners, it's overwhelming. That's where platforms like Coolify, EasyPanel, and Dokploy come in. They sit on top of your server and give you a visual control panel where you can deploy apps from GitHub, run Docker containers, create databases, manage environment variables, set up SSL certificates, route traffic to different services. Instead of running commands all day, you can deploy apps with just a few clicks. Think of them like mission control for your server. Now let's look at the first platform, Coolify. Coolify overview. Coolify has become one of the most talked about self-hosted deployment platforms over the past couple years. And the reason is pretty simple. It's essentially trying to be a self-hosted alternative to platforms like Heroku, Vercel, or Netlify. But instead of paying monthly per project, you run everything on your own VPS. So here's how it works. Once Coolify is installed on your server, you get access to a dashboard where you can deploy apps directly from your JIT repositories. You connect GitHub or GitLab. Then every time you push code, your app redeploys automatically. It also handles a lot of the annoying infrastructure stuff for you. Things like SSL certificates, Docker container builds, reverse proxies, environment variables, and databases. You can even spin up services like PostgreSQL, Redis, MongoDB right inside the interface. Another really nice feature is that Coolify supports one-click apps, which lets you install things like WordPress, Ghost, or other open source tools very quickly. So overall, Coolify is designed to feel like a full application platform, not just a control panel. But there are a couple trade-offs. Coolify has a lot of features, which means the interface can feel slightly overwhelming at first. And while installation has gotten easier over time, it still involves running a setup script on your server. So it's not quite as beginner-friendly as some other tools. But if you want something powerful and flexible, Coolify is a really strong option. So if you want to start with Coolify, we've got that link for you down in the description below. Now let's talk about EasyPanel. EasyPanel overview. EasyPanel takes a slightly different approach. Instead of trying to recreate a full platform as a service environment like Coolify, EasyPanel focuses on one thing: making Docker deployments extremely simple. Everything inside EasyPanel revolves around Docker containers. When you open the dashboard, you'll see a clean interface where you can deploy containerized apps, connect JIT repositories, configure domains, set environment variables, monitor resource usage. The experience is intentionally designed to be minimal and beginner-friendly. You don't have as many layers of abstraction as you get with Coolify. Instead, you're basically managing Docker containers with a really nice UI. That means you have more control over exactly how things run. But it also means that EasyPanel works best if your applications are already Docker-based. Another thing that EasyPanel does well is resource visibility. You can quickly see how much CPU or RAM each service is using, which makes it easier to manage smaller VPS servers. Installation is also fairly straightforward, which is another reason beginners often start with EasyPanel. So if Coolify feels like a full app platform, EasyPanel feels more like a simplified Docker control center for your server. So if you want to get started with EasyPanel, we've got that link for you down in the description below. Now, let's look at the third option, Dokploy overview. Dokploy is another project that has gained traction recently. Like the other two tools, Dokploy focuses on simplifying deployments on a VPS, but its approach approach sits somewhere between Coolify and EasyPanel. Dokploy focuses heavily on JIT-based deployments. You connect your repository, then whenever you push updates to your code, Dokploy automatically rebuilds and redeploys your application. It also uses Docker under the hood, but the workflow is a bit more deployment-focused than container-focused. Dokploy also includes features like automatic SSL certificates, reverse proxy routing, environment variable management, and container monitoring. The interface is fairly modern and clean, and many developers like how straightforward the deployment flow feels. However, Dokploy is still a younger project compared to the other two platforms. That means documentation and tutorials are a little more limited. So beginners sometimes run into issues that require a bit of troubleshooting. But if you like the idea of a JIT-driven deployment with Docker running behind the scenes, Dokploy is definitely worth considering. So go ahead and click the link down below in the description to check out Dokploy. Setup difficulty comparison. One of the biggest questions that beginners ask is which one is actually easiest to set up? And here's the honest answer. They're all relatively simple compared to configuring everything manually, but there are still differences. EasyPanel is probably the most beginner-friendly overall. The interface is simple, the concepts are easy to understand, and you're mostly dealing with containers directly. Coolify takes a little longer to wrap your head around because it offers more features and layers. But once it's running, it becomes extremely powerful. Dokploy sits somewhere in the middle. It's easier than building your own deployment system from scratch, but it still assumes some familiarity with Docker and JIT workflows. So if we ranked them purely on beginner friendliness, it would probably look like this. EasyPanel first, Coolify second, Dokploy third. But ease of use isn't the only thing that matters. So next, let's talk about features. Feature comparison. All three platforms share some core capabilities. They can all deploy apps from JIT repositories, run Docker containers, configure domains, manage SSL certificates, and set environment variables. So at a basic level, they solve the same problem. Where they start to differ is how much they automate and how flexible they are. Coolify offers the most features overall. It includes things like team collaboration, multi-server deployments, built-in service templates, and more advanced project management features. EasyPanel keeps things simpler and focuses mainly on container management. Dokploy focuses more heavily on JIT-based deployment workflows. So depending on what you need, one platform might make more sense than the others. Which one should beginners choose? If you're brand new to VPS hosting and you just want something that works, EasyPanel is probably the easiest starting point. The interface is clean, the learning curve is smaller, and it focuses on the fundamentals. If you're planning to deploy multiple apps and you want something that feels more like a full platform, Coolify is incredibly powerful once you get comfortable with it. And if your workflow revolves heavily around JIT deployments and automated rebuilds, Dokploy might fit your setup really well. There isn't one universal winner here. The best choice depends on how you plan to use your server. So setting up a VPS used to mean spending hours in the terminal configuring servers, installing reverse proxies, managing SSL certificates, and debugging deployments. But tools like Coolify, EasyPanel, and Dokploy have made that process dramatically easier. Instead of manually configuring everything, you can deploy applications, manage databases, and connect domains from a clean web interface. Try one of these platforms and experiment. The best way to learn how they work is by deploying a real project and seeing how the workflow feels. And once you get comfortable with these tools, running your own infrastructure becomes a lot more approachable. So if you want to get started with any of these three products that we talked about today, you'll find links for them down in the description below. These are affiliate links, which means we earn a small commission when you use them at no extra cost to you. These commissions really help support the channel and allow us to continue to create free content just like this. So if you end up using them, we thank you so much in advance. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Here on the channel, we make videos on how to create websites, explore different website builders, discuss domain names, and so much more. So be sure to subscribe. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you here in the next video.